This is a great inspirational area, and development in other areas of the city hinge on Signature Gateway. This is our opportunity to make Rowlett known in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
It really has the potential for a landmark commercial development. For a high-rise office building, it's a very unique location, and quite frankly, I agree, it deserves more than just more houses out there on the point. You have the ability to overlook the lake on basically 3 sides.
Maybe a higher-end hotel. The views, once you get up a couple of stories, are going to be amazing. You'll be able to see all the way to downtown Dallas.
In the Signature Gateway, the access is certainly a constraint that is going to have to be overcome, but at the same time, it provides a unique opportunity in that whatever goes on that property is going to have to be so far above what was originally envisioned down there that it will truly help create the atmosphere to become a destination in the city of Rowlett. Before we get started, I want to address the elephant in the room, density. Yes, that's right, density has long been considered a bad word in some suburban communities like Rowlett. While we will not be delving into specific density numbers at this meeting, I do want to broach the subject so we'll all be on the same page before we start discussing potential building types.
When people think of multifamily, this picture typically comes to mind. For the record, when we talk about multifamily, otherwise referred to as mixed residential, this is not what we are referring to.
I happen to be a citizen of Rowlett myself, and I'm real concerned about the quality of development that comes into the city. When I think of standard garden apartments, I think oftentimes about something that's built for a short term. They're often built around parking lots. There might be a pool at the center of the development, a building at the front of the development, but it's really set up as a small enclave that is not really part of the overall community. And often the construction practices and construction techniques are in place for that building type are for a short-term building that would oftentimes support lower rents and a more transient nature of the folks that would move in and out of them. And I think through this process, what we've clearly heard from the citizens of Rowlett is there need to be alternative housing choices. There need to be choices for young people and choices for people as they age, but it should be quality development.
This community, most communities have to realize that you must address that pent-up demand, but be in front of it and dictate, again, the quality and the conditions under which you're willing to accept that product and hopefully someday encourage it in this community.
Remember, throughout this entire process, we are striving to create great places with lasting value. One attribute of a great place is one that can be repurposed over time. This style of apartments cannot do that, and thus is not a building type that the city will actively pursue in the future.
Let's hear a little more about what makes a great place.
Great place. Well, it's got to be accessible, well connected to other important places in the area, comfortable, projects a good image, where people are drawn to participate in activities there. So it's a social place, really, where people like to gather and visiting it again and again.
It's something that people know about, and usually it has an identity tied to it, whether it's a city, a destination.
Places are something that aren't just defined in physical terms, but are defined in community terms.
They're places with great buildings that start to create a space, and within those spaces are great streets where people can walk.
We sometimes think of streets as a way to, as quickly as we can, get through a place. But what is changing, the practice of transportation is changing, is that, let's build the street as a place that people want to stay. You think of the great streets in the world or in the country, and they're places that you want to be, you want to stay, and you want to be there as long as you can.
I think they help the environment, the way the street connects with the sidewalk, the way the building faces, and the space between can really make the environment or the space feel more welcoming.
To make streets in Rowlett great, we're going to have to do a few things differently. One is that we need to make more accommodations for people walking and for cyclists. This might mean painted bike lanes or wider sidewalks in some areas. The second thing is to reconsider planting trees on the street. We have not been putting trees in medians or along streets as they demand water and their roots can damage the streets and utilities. However, they're important for shade and aesthetics.
We react to the physical environments that we're in, so all of us can go back. For some people it's Disney World, you know, all of their senses, you know, what they see, what they hear, what they smell, all of that just feels good to them, or it's fun, or it gets their blood pumping. Other people feel very soothed when they walk down a tree canopy street. So, you know, it's really different for everybody. The great thing in Rowlett is you've got these 13 areas, so you can kind of offer a different experience for everybody. But the public realm is hugely important, the environment you create there. So I think what many planners and urban designers will tell you is a great place is a place that you remember, that you can say it's that place. And I would even trump that and say it's a place that you gave an address to. So in the Metroplex, and I say this without bias, if somebody likes it or doesn't like it, I understand people feel both ways, but Addison Circle, I mean, that's just an address, I say in air quotes, in the minds of people. Legacy is an address for people. South Lake is an address. Uptown is an address. So it's not an address in terms of 3400, you know, something street, but it's an address in that it's a destination for people. It was memorable in some way, good or bad, and it probably, because of that, offered them multiple experiences. It wasn't a place they just drove through and they forgot as they were driving through or didn't know they were there. They went there, they stayed there for some period of time, and they left, and perhaps they revisited.
I think Signature Gateway is the area of town I'm actually most excited about. With a mix of commercial, entertainment, and residential, it will truly be a place that puts Rowlett on the map.
But it has the potential to be a really unique area for the city. It can be, we'll probably see some of the largest or the tallest buildings in the city in this particular area. It has the waterfront, which could provide an entertainment or a destination component to it as well. And very well potentially could provide some additional housing opportunities, all within this one particular district.
Being right on the water, strategically located, it's a place where Rowlett could hit a home run.
And there's so much of our lakefront that's been developed, but people, the general public, can't just go access it. So this is a great area where we can make the lakefront available.
We in the Parks Department, we consider the lake another park.
Well, the Signature Gateway is a focal point for the city. It's an entrance point coming in from I-30.
One of the things I envision is as you come in off of 30, you kind of fly into Rowlett. And this is a great opportunity as you're coming around that curve and flying into Rowlett to really be taken by what's there.
And as President George Bush Turnpike was developed and constructed, there was a realization that the access to the area from the President George Bush Turnpike is not ideal, to say the least. The ramping configuration, essentially as you exit, you could almost miss that site unless you knew exactly where you were going. So as a team working closely with the city, we understood immediately that in order to really utilize that site for economic development, there was going to be a need to do something there that became a destination.
The other thing that Signature Gateway will provide is a potential job base for the city, and again, it will also be able to diversify our tax base in the city as well. We're hoping that with the location on the water to be able to attract a corporate headquarters there or any type of corporate business.
Picture in that area, what we believe and what we know from our market research can happen there is early on more horizontal kinds of uses, offices perhaps, supporting offices to retail. The city's long talked about that area as an entertainment district, and while we think there'll be entertainment components, we think they'll be in support to other more primary components. We think perhaps residential tower, so that could be one of the vertical elements that gives greater visibility to the site. We think that in combination with perhaps a hotel tower or a hotel with convention center space.
And it goes without saying a facility like that would have significant income and revenue potentials.
With regard to the hotel and convention center, we heard when we spoke to the hospital that the lack of those services within this community is a real challenge. They recruit doctors and other medical professionals every year, several, and they have to put them in a hotel outside of the market because this area doesn't have those services. They need training facilities for their nurses and some of their other technicians, and again, they have to go outside the market. So when we described Signature Gateway to your major employer, the hospital, they were very excited about the possibility of a partnership there.
Now, we understand clearly that the challenge to creating a destination is also balancing that with the fact that there's a very stable single-family neighborhood immediately adjacent to it. So the vision has moved forward in a manner that could start to create some sort of a taller building at the point where it can really receive the recognition from the surrounding community, from the President George Bush Turnpike as, oh, that's the place I want to go, so I need to get off on the next exit. But at the same time, transition very quickly to lower density and lower scale development as you approach the neighborhood, so that you can start to balance the needs of the neighborhood with the ability to truly utilize that spectacular site.
But there are examples all over the Metroplex and the country of how you transition from single-family detached into entertainment, areas with entertainment uses, office uses, other residential uses, convention center uses.
We are willing to wait for the right developer to achieve the vision. We will have to work to find the right developer and company to come and make this a reality. It's likely it will not happen tomorrow, but this vision needs to be realized. It will have a profound impact on the development in our city and help to make our tax base much more sustainable.